Welcome everybody to our virtual book launch. Hello to everyone on socials watching us. Today I'm really excited to be launching this book with my colleagues. My name is Relmi Damiano and I am the co-founder of the About My Brain Institute, an organization created to democratize leadership and neuroscience. Today we're very excited to be launching the English version of the book Brain Friendly Leadership, The 9 Habits of a Future Fit Mind. Now, for all the people that have been asking where to buy the book, it will be released very, very soon on the Amazon store in paperback and Kindle, as well as through our e-learning platform, the i4 Neuroleader platform. Now, you can visit aboutmybrain.com/BFL and register your interest. Just pop your email in to receive an email notification once the book is out. Since 2009, we have started the About My Brain Institute, and we have witnessed people from all over the world who are keen to learn how to optimize their brain and develop their personal leadership. This is why today we decided that this should be the launch of our Brain Friendly channel as well, which is an open forum geared to explore how leadership needs to be redefined in the 21st century. Now, all of us know that we're currently navigating a myriad of global challenges that must be addressed, not just by a few, but by all of us. We believe that learning to develop ourselves is the first step to overcome these issues and evolve society as a whole. So let's dive right in. I'm delighted to introduce to you the authors of this fabulous book. From Spain, management guru Juan Cubero, and from Australia, from our own home, leadership expert, executive coach, and filmmaker Sylvia Damiano. Both of these highly and experienced individuals will share their insights of what it means to be a brain-friendly leader and how anyone can develop a future-fit mind. To lead this session, I would like to welcome presidents for About My Brain Institute in Asia Pacífico Garry Mills and Latin America Ricardo González. Now, if you'd like to ask questions, feel free to contribute in the comments section of our social channels. We will aim to answer as we go throughout the session or at the end. Over to our panel, Garry Mills will kick it off.
Thank you very much, Relmi, and good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody from wherever you are. I'm Garry Mills, President for About My Brain Institute in the Asia Pacific, and it's great to be with you. I'm coming to you from Canberra, Australia's capital. It's early morning here, so just a little bit about me. That my incredible journey with the About My Brain Institute started over 2 years ago. I was looking to understand more about neuroscience, leadership, and mental health, and I knew that the About My Brain Institute had the right people in the right place to grow that understanding. After many years of working in law enforcement, high-risk environments and highly stressful situations, I knew the brain played a pretty important role in everything we do as a human being. But since then, I've become to understand that becoming a brain-friendly leader is how we become the best version of ourselves, and also it creates the leaders that our world so desperately needs. So I'm now going to hand you over to my friend and colleague, Ricardo González.
Hello, Gary. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here in this launch of the book. I'm from Mexico City, and I am the Latin American president of About My Brain. I'm an accountant, a business strategy, and I have been working with About My Brain for 4 years now. It's a great opportunity to include the brain that changes everything market. I'm so happy to be here, and now I have the pleasure to introduce two of my favorite persons in the world. The first one, Sylvia Damiano. Sylvia Damiano was born in Argentina. She speaks Spanish. If you want to ask her, she can speak Spanish too. Australia-based scientist who has made a significant contribution to the field of neuroleadership around the world. She created the i4 Neuroleadership model in a plane from I think from one part of Australia. She also traveled to the globe, and she produced the documentary Make Me a Leader. She's the founder and the CEO of About My Brain Institute. Welcome, Sylvia.
Hello everybody. Hello, Ricardo. Thank you.
Welcome. And from Spain, Madrid, we have Juan Carlos Cubero. Juan Carlos is an economist. He is an international leadership and talent expert, as well as a prolific writer. I think that he writes a book every day. Author of 51 books. He's also the honorary president for the Spanish Coaching Association and president of the European Institute of the Diversity for Spain. He has received many awards, including the Human Leader and the LeaderX Award for Leadership Excellence. He is the president for Europe of the About My Brain Institute. So we're ready to start, Gary.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ricardo. My first question, Sylvia, is based around the title of the book. Can you tell us all what exactly is brain-friendly leadership?
Of course. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for your presence today, to anyone who is listening, and to you guys for participating of this. I think it's really important to highlight that we are going through times where we need to be aware of how our brain functions, how our reactions are. And when I wrote the book, this is a very special story because we were about to launch this book in March 2020. I was about to board the plane when they closed the borders in Australia. We were going to be in a couple of book fairs in Spain, in Latin America, and everything, was shut down. And we never imagined when we wrote the book that we were going to go through the pandemics and experience so many issues of mental health and with the lockdowns and all the things that we are experiencing. So there's no need to repeat what we already know. But this book comes at a time where we need to be much more aware of what happens inside our skulls. How we manage our minds in order to navigate these uncertain times. And the book contains, the 9 habits, we'll cover them in a while, about what each of us can do to protect ourselves and our families and our workplaces. This brain-friendly leadership is not a mere theoretical concept. Brain-friendly leadership is the intersection of the awareness and the understanding of how our brain works and how we can apply this knowledge to our day-to-day in how we lead ourselves and how we lead other people. So this is what the book is about, really having this understanding, this combination, because, any habits that were written in the past didn't contain the importance of the brain. Like we didn't know enough about the brain to incorporate any of this. So that's probably the answer to your question, Gary.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Sylvia. And it certainly is a book for the times. And who would have foreseen what was going to happen? But I know for myself that my own mental health and well-being and my own self-leadership, a lot of those 9 habits, and you'll talk about them later, have just been transformational for me. So I'll really look forward to hearing more from you, Juan Carlos, during this morning. My next question is for you, Juan Carlos. How did the idea of the book come about? Was it something you did together, or you just came together and said, hey, let's write a book?
Well, good evening from Europe. It's amazing that we are all together all over the world. Thank you to the technology plus globalization. Well, the answer, Gary, is yes and no. Yes, because we had before this amazing documentary, which is Make Me a Leader. It's a more than 60 hours documentary directed by Sylvia. As I usually say, Sylvia is the mother of neuro leadership. So it's well, you know how many awards has received the documentary. But at the same time, we have complementary ideas on what leadership and neuro leadership is about, related to the brain. Sylvia has already mentioned that brain is mystery for science, but at the same time, and especially during the pandemic, we have to protect our system, our immune system, and brain is responsible for that. So it's a book presented as a neuro conversation with 50 open questions and 9 habits. We will talk about them. But as I've said before, it's yes and no. We have put together different ideas, and the synergy is an evidence in this book.
Thank you, Juan Carlos. The way the book is written is fantastic because it has the questions. So before you start reading that part, you can answer yourself that question. And it's really interesting the way it was written. And I want to ask you, Juan Carlos, talking about leadership these days, with everything that is going around the world, how do you see leadership today?
Well, leadership has been always important. And well, it's a pleasure that you, Ricardo and Gary, because you are worldwide experts, are in this dialogue with Sylvia and me, presented by Relmi. But leadership has been always important in history, but now, after coronavirus, is more important than ever. Here in Europe, we're saying goodbye and thank you to Angela Merkel. Angela Merkel has been the Prime Minister of Germany, has won 4 different elections every 4 years. And it's the symbol of the new leadership because she is humble, she is small, of course, it's female leadership, but he has a wonderful brain and tries to be very compassionate and tries to anticipate what is going on. So, well, it's an example of a different kind of leadership than the bosses and the leaders in the past. As Sylvia has said before, we have we've made an evolution during the pandemics, and we think the neuro leadership we present now, brain-friendly leadership, is more avant-garde than ever.
I agree with you, Juan Carlos, and you said that it's brain-friendly, and it gives you another view of what a leader is. Right, because it's not only the habits, that there are a lot of books about habits, but this time you're including, Sylvia and you are including the neuroscience studies that are available, and you take it into something that it's simple and that you can use every day. What do you think, Gary?
Oh, look, I couldn't agree more. The neuroscience, and I'm actually studying neuroscience at the moment to just further my understanding of the science, but it's that practical approach. I mean, the ability to transfer scientific, the research, not everybody is able to or wants to read research papers and try and pick apart, well, how do I actually apply this in real life? And that's one of the golden nuggets of this book and the work of About My Brain, is that it's put it in a practical way and a measurable way that people can relate to and just apply to their daily lives, as opposed to trying to pick apart, well, when does this actually apply? Well, this applies to everything you do in your life, and it really does improve your quality of life and the quality of life of people around you.
Absolutely. And Sylvia, this is a question for you. Tell us more about the book. What is it about and who is it for?
Well, that's a great question, and that's the same question I got asked when I was producing the documentary. I think the book or the movie are directed to anyone who is interested to improve themselves and to learn more about how they function. It is that awareness that we don't teach children in schools. I mean, some schools are incorporating this type of topics more and more, but we grow up, we go to school, we go to university, or we learn a trade, doesn't matter where the path takes us, but then we start to form a relationship with a partner or with co-workers or with our bosses without understanding who we are, without understanding how we come across to others, how we are perceived. And even though perception is not absolute reality. It is perception, and it influences our relationships. So the whole development of what we do and our assessments and our training is geared to enhance this awareness that we have of ourselves in order to have more meaningful relationships and better relationships no matter where we go. So let's go back to the question. I forgot your question now.
That's all right. What is it about and who is it for?
Okay. So it's for anyone.
That's all right. So that was part of the answer. No?
Yeah. And it's after all, I'm quite a practical person. So we thought with Juan Carlos that to put it in some kind of recipe for cooking a meal, let's cook ourselves and let's understand, what is it that we need to do in order to grow and to flourish and to achieve what we need to achieve, or maybe not achieve what we need to achieve, but just to be happier and more confident, which are some of the things that I notice in my coaching, and I imagine you guys are the same. There's always something that people need to complain about. I don't have enough time, or my relationships are not very good, or I can't deliver what my boss asked me. So if we could go back and develop some introspection, some reflection, and really work through in our minds what is the thing that can calm us down, can calm our brain, we are going to be better leaders. We are going to, and when I mean leaders, I'm not meaning leaders in position of leadership, leaders in our lives. We all have the potential to be leaders, and we have to. We can't run a house without having this proactivity, this calmness. We run it, but there's arguments, there are things that don't work. So it's not just for the presidents or the prime ministers of the world or for a CEO of the company, it's for everybody in this world. So I think to answer to your question, the answer to your question is for everybody who wants to develop themselves.
Right. Okay, so everybody, Gary.
Thanks, Ricardo. Yeah, look, that has been I really want to make an addition to that point, Sylvia, about that leadership and who leaders are. And that's been a real turning point for me. And I know recognising that everybody's a leader, not just a leader of your own life, but which a lot of us don't really connect with, but also that ability to lead and influence people around us, regardless of what our position or role is or our level of authority. And I have that conversation quite a lot in leadership and high performance workshops that I run, is that you're all leaders, whether or not you understand that right now. And that's that ability to influence, but to influence other people, it's about influencing our brain first, understanding what our brain's doing and capable of, and also how it can work against us. They're the really key things that I've discovered, and certainly this book addresses. And my next question is for both of you. Is let's talk about the 9 habits. We talk about brain-friendly leadership. Now it's nine habits for a future fit mind. Habits are the things we do every day that we build into our subconscious eventually. But yeah, I'd love to hear more about the habits, the nine habits of the book.
Okay, so as I said before, we have divided the habits into 3 groups. Habits of self-direction. So within this group, we have activating our purpose. And I want to hear from Juan Carlos for this one.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to connect this purpose with your practical perspective, which is very important, and the importance of leadership for everyone, as you've said, because it's not only for bosses, it's not only big organizations. We think that leadership, especially neuro leadership, is the difference between robots and humans. We can have digitalization for everything, and we haven't seen anything yet. But we don't think robots can be leaders. They don't have the creativity, curiosity, emotional intelligence, intuition, and well, the I4 model of leadership is all related to that. So the first habit is purpose, personal purpose, organizational purpose. why we do what we do, which is really important. And we have to live in the present and for the future at the same time. And that makes human beings the difference. That makes the difference. So that's why we consider the first of the 9 habits is this purposeful living, this need for a purpose in everything we do.
And also purpose, thank you, Juan Carlos, it gives us that capacity to be inspired. And if we are inspired, if we have the energy to move towards a purpose, we drag other people along. So leadership is about influencing others. And if we are able to be energetic and enthusiastic and inspired, we are undoubtedly going to bring others with us. One of the things I wanted to highlight was I feel sorry for the people that have to be in a position of leadership right now across the world, because it's probably one of the worst times I have seen when it comes to leading a group of people. Everybody has their own uniqueness and their own individuality and their own ideas, and nothing is right or wrong. It's like our unique biases and beliefs that make us who we are. So what happens is, to lead in times where people have so polarized opinions is very difficult. And if you think about the brain and how the brain needs to relax in order to be more productive, the leaders that have been taking care of the situation for 2 years are probably exhausted. Their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain who is the executive part of the brain and regulates and decides and empathizes, is absolutely exhausted. If we did some kind of a scan that can tell us that, we will realize. So, and people at home, people that are in lockdown situations with children that they have to teach or taking care of people who are sick, it is quite overwhelming. So one of the things that the habit number 2 is choose what we think. So when we are bombarded with the media, with news, with continuous change of plans, because people really don't know exactly what to do or what path to take, this is trial and error. It can overwhelm our brains, and suddenly we become quite negative and quite pessimistic. So choosing what we think from moment to moment is a discipline, it's a habit that we can all develop. That's the thing. If the news are affecting you, switch off the television. Don't look at your iPhone every day in the morning when you wake up. Choose how you're going to start the day in a different way. I know Juan Carlos starts the day with a 10-minute meditation, and that's enough to clear your head, I imagine, to choose what you're going to think for the rest of the day. Isn't that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, because whenever you have a purpose,
It got frozen. Juan Carlos?
Yes, Sylvia, it's absolutely right. And well, we have the best of times and the worst of times, as Charles Dickens said in A Tale for Two Cities. We have to choose our idea, and it has to be a positive idea, because we have polarization, hate, this media all over. So we need positive ideas. And this is not theoretical, it's very practical. It's very practical, connected to our self-care, we'll see that later, our relations. And we can only be inspiring leaders if we choose these good ideas instead of the bad ones.
Yeah. Well, Ricardo, we have you back. We lost you.
Yeah, something happened. But I was saying that I love these 3 self-direction habits. And I have to say that the first time I thought that it was self-direction, but at the same time, when you have this self-direction and you share it with your group, it becomes that the group has a direction, has clarity, has self-care and everything. So for me, this habit is absolutely important. First, to have clarity. Second, to decide from everything you have in your mind, make it clear and choose one thing. And lastly, right, decide what you're going to do. Don't waste your time that you really want, and share it with your group, with your company.
I always say Yeah, I always say it's not about time management. People tell me how they can get organized to do more things in a day. And I always say it's not time management, it's mind management. And this is what the book addresses, is how you can manage your mind from moment to moment in order to have more time.
Exactly. It's time management, it's energy management, and it's mind management. It's true. And we have to visualize what we want, because for the brain, as you all know, there's no difference. They make no difference between what we think and what is real. You mentioned before, Sylvia, perception. So we have to choose again. We have to view the future, and we have to share this vision, as you, Ricardo, is mentioning now. So it's our responsibility to use properly the brain we have.
The first two habits.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say on that visualization that I find that fascinating, because obviously professional athletes have used visualization techniques for many years. I mean, there's professional sports. Chicago Bulls have got a meditation and mindfulness sort of app on one of the program. The visualization. Do you think it's something that's becoming more widely used within leadership? Do you think it's something that I definitely think it's underutilized, but how do we bring that into our daily practice of visualization and visualizing the future in a positive way rather than that catastrophization that we often have?
Well, I would like to invite one of the neuroscientific principles that I learned. And one of the things that I would like to acknowledge is I have learned a lot from amazing people in the field of neuroleadership around the world, okay? So we all learn from each other. There are amazing neuroscientists, experts in leadership that know so much. And when it comes to visualization, the brain doesn't know the difference between what it sees and what it remembers, what could happen in the future. So if you close your eyes, not only you invite your brain to calm itself down and to produce more of the alpha brain waves, which are slower brain waves between the neurons, how the electricity happens between the neurons. To explain it in simple terms, we calm our brain down and we can picture what is it that we want to achieve. And maybe it doesn't turn up exactly the same way, but it gives the brain to find what we want. There are many movies and books written about this. But how many of you actually visualize, and it could be a small little thing. How is my day going to pan out? What am I going to do? How am I going to celebrate it? How am I going to relate to the people? Because if you wake up in the morning and you're grumpy and you get, loaded with negative stuff, and it's not going to be a great day, but it's much better to get up, close your eyes for 10, 15 minutes, and visualize and breathe and imagine the capacity to imagine that we all have, how we want the day to look like. That's an important thing we can do. And this is a very a small example of what we can do, but there are many, many things we can do with visualization.
Right, Sylvia. And visualization is not new in sports, as you, Gary, mentioned, especially in high-performing sports. But it's needed in leadership for all of us, because it's the connection as well, the third habit, with the habits of self-care. And so we have to begin the morning with better visualization and a better day for all of us.
So that takes us to the second group, which is self-care. So in self-care, there's so much to talk about and so much data that we have incorporated in the book. So we are not going to go diving into the detail, but we want to keep it high level today. And what we want to say is that exercising is one of them. Eating the right food is another one. And the last one is the capacity to relax the brain. Sleep properly and do your mindfulness, as a little bit of what we were describing before. But you would be amazed at how much you will gain by just closing your eyes. And when people tell me, when I'm running a workshop and people ask me, but I don't have time to close my eyes, I don't have time to meditate. And if you don't have 10 minutes in your life to meditate, you don't have a life. So it's amazing how we reject the idea of closing our eyes unless we are going to sleep. Close your eyes. If you're running from meeting to meeting and you don't take a break and you don't breathe and you don't imagine how the meeting will look like or calm yourself down before carrying on to the next meeting, you're not going to develop or demonstrate the best experience or the best part of you. We are going to be run by our emotions rather than by our our compassion, our flexibility, which is what organizations and teams need today.
Yeah, something that I love about the book is about mindfulness, right? But it's not only that you have to meditate all the time, but you can take it to every day. Like when you take a shower, and then you can take a walk, right? And check all the surroundings when you're there. When you have this contact while you're doing something. It's amazing that. I love that, the concept of mindfulness.
Yeah,
is the key. And well, if we look at the pandemics, which is a disaster with millions of people that died in the world, but what we say in the book is that if we don't have exercise in our life, if we don't meditate or manage stress properly, if we don't eat the good food instead of the bad food, there are more people dying because of that twice than people because of the coronavirus. So we have to transform absolutely our life habits.
Yeah, and this self-care part of it, all the three habits you've got in there are just being critical to my own mental health. I mean, I've got my own experiences with depression and just sleeping and the mindfulness side of it. I even bought a neurofeedback device so I could train my brain to be mindful and meditate. And it's just that powerful connection to understanding where our attention is. And I know when I have a conversation with a lot of people around mindfulness and meditation, it's particularly mindfulness, it's just training you to be more in tune with your attention, where it is, controlling it, because it's true that we get distracted all the time, don't we? And don't even know we're distracted till half an hour later we're scrolling through Facebook or Instagram, and then we, like you say, we don't have enough time, and our brains used up a lot of energy.
Yes, and when we talk about the sleep in particular, I have learned so much from Dr. Carmen Harrington. She's a sleep expert in Australia, and I wasn't aware. I mean, I always slept quite well until I discovered I had a sleep apnea, and I had to have a nose surgery to correct that because I wasn't breathing for 20 seconds in my REM sleep. And I acted on it, and now I sleep much better. And I have my Oura ring I wear every night, and I know if I slept 7 hours or 8 hours or 6 hours, and I know my readiness for the next day. And some people ask me, don't you get obsessed? And I'm like, well, the obsession of the mind is when there's no understanding of what is it that you're doing. So obviously the mind can go in any direction, but I make sure that it doesn't obsess me, but checking gives me that understanding of what is it that I'm doing. Otherwise, we don't know what we're doing. We have no idea. And that is an important thing that we cannot do.
And besides that, the lack of sleep begins a negative circle, a vicious circle of energy and food and everything. So, yeah, it's one of the most important things to do in our life.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted because I'm trying to read one good question from Catherine about, the kids learning online. And this morning I was talking with someone in Argentina that they are just opening for students to go back to university. And the kids are really enjoying. They are doing classes in the park in an open space and realizing how different is the experience of pure online versus face-to-face. So I have no doubt that face-to-face is a better interaction. If you are playing bass while you are trying to take your lesson online, which is happening to many students, people get distracted very easily because, we have six senses with our intuition, but 5 senses to engage. If we are only looking at something or listening, we are not engaging the rest of the senses, which are an important aspect of learning. So my wishes are that all of this finishes soon so we can re-engage and we can socialize and we can go to classes. And the online component is going to continue to be an important aspect, but it's not going to be the only aspect, I hope.
Yeah, it's interesting because, as you know, I have a daughter, Zoe, she's here in her room, and she is 21 and in her second year of university. And here in Madrid, they have one virtual week, one presential week. And millennials and centennials now try to adapt and give and receive information in a different way when they are virtual, and they are with the screens, and when they are touching themselves and with emotions and the instincts. It's really very interesting how they complement, they integrate both sides of the coin.
Yes, and let's not forget about the fatigue that occurs from having continuous meetings offline. If meetings were boring before, remember, people sitting around the table and some people complain it was boring. Imagine what it is just online. So I recently have become aware of a company called 5B here in Sydney. It's a great company, solar technology and solar energy technology, and they're doing Wednesdays, Zoom free. You can go and work on what you need to go and work, but you don't have to be in Zoom. They have a 9-day fortnight to help people through lockdown, so there's no mental health fatigue. They have yoga classes, meditation classes, and this is the type of companies that are changing the way employees need to feel, in the workplace. And as you know very, very well, Juan Carlos, talent is scarce. So if we don't take care of the talent that we have, they go to a better place where they can be more engaged and feel more productive. So all of these concepts and these habits that we are discussing, if they are being incorporated by organizations bit by bit, it will change the employee experience, no doubt.
True. Talent is more scarce than ever. And
Silvia, and Paula is in. Go.
Sí, Ricardo.
Juan Carlos.
No, Juan Carlos.
Yes. Juan Carlos, Ricardo. Okay, I think that there's a comment that I would like to add. Paula Vidal says, I think we will need a hybrid neuro-leadership model to match this new situation. And I want to ask you, Silvia, are there changes in the way we're the neuro-leadership model?
I think the competencies that we need to develop before COVID or after COVID are practically the same. We need people to perform, we need people to collaborate, to be agile, and to be innovative. So I don't think the competencies have changed. Maybe the way we develop these competencies may be a hybrid, and it will depend on the HR director and the CEO of each company to be aware of this and to really push the basic strategies to engage people, I would say.
I do agree. The competencies are more or less the same, but what the pandemics have learned or have taught us, our lessons in life, is the priorities of our health, for, of course, happiness, and to being together, as you've said before, Silvia.
Yeah. So should we dive into the last 3 habits?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to check that you have read the book, so they are self-development habits, and the first one is?
Yeah, look, it's they're great habits there in those self-development habits. And the lifelong learning. Tell us about the learning constantly. Why is that important for brain-friendly leadership?
Well, learning continuously is something that we all understand that this is the mandate of the 21st century. Things change too fast, and we can easily fall behind if we don't have this approach of continuous learning. Dr. Carol Dweck from America, she spoke about a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. So it's not that we have one or the other, but it's more about are we willing to continuously debunk things that we may have learned in the past and they are no longer useful? And I find that some people are very prone to continuously learn, and other people struggle with that concept. Some people, they say, well, I went to my university, I know what I know, and this is who I am. And the reality is the brain is always changing. You are not the same person you were last year. I'm definitely not the same person I was last year, and not even 5 years ago. So I think that we need to be mindful of this and always seek not just to remain current, but also to remain healthy in our brains to learn something new. It doesn't matter what it is. People get stuck into, oh, I'm not a good painter, so I'm not going to do painting. Or I'm not good at languages, I'm not going to learn German. That's not the point. The point is that you learn something new to create new connections in the brain, to keep your brain moving and young. You know, that's the other benefit of learning continuously.
I'd like to add, Sylvia, that we all agree that learning is important, but if we look at the numbers, it's bad news. At least in Europe, 50% of the people don't read anything every year. 80% of these people said before the pandemics, it's because of lack of time. We've had time, we've had the lockout, and the same 50% of people don't read anything. So it's really difficult stuff to transform our habits, especially when we are not used of learning something new, as Sylvia said, and we need it to. It's anti-age. Learning is against our process of aging.
Yeah, exactly. So the last two habits are mixing with tonic people, not toxic people, and intelligent optimism. So would you like, Juan Carlos, to go ahead and explain them?
Thank you, Sylvia. Well, toxic people are around us. Maybe 40% of the people we have close are toxic because they complain, because they are negative, because they are extremely sad all the time. And we have to be with tonic people. We need the best energy from these people around us, and we have to give the best energy to these people. So, of course, these toxic people deserve some opportunities, but not more than that, because if not, well, we know from neuroscience, from science in general, that it can cost us 10 years of life. So we need to be with good people in general terms, not with the bad ones.
And once again, to this concept, if you allow me to interrupt you, Juan Carlos, there's no right or wrong or good or bad people. It's just during our lives, you know, we all go through lots of experiences. Some are good, some are not that good, some are really bad. And that creates, you know, trauma that sometimes we don't deal with. And then we become bitter or resentful, and we go and spread it to everybody in the office. So many people ask me, what do I do if I have a toxic boss? And I don't even like the term toxic because it's not toxic. It's someone whose brain, is not functioning in the best possible way. And it could be a combination of brain dysfunction, or maybe it's just psychological issues that people have developed over time. But unfortunately, some people become so toxic or so difficult to deal with that sometimes people have no escape. They have to look for another job, or they have to look for another relationship. So we are not going to analyze the different types of personalities today, or the different cases. But the reality is, it's important to protect your mind. If you are dealing with someone that affects you on a daily basis, there has to be another avenue for you to explore and to see or to seek help, and just to move away from that person that maybe needs treatment, needs therapy. So I think that we all know this, but for some reason we get stuck in situations that we don't have the courage to change. And, you know, sometimes it requires a lot of courage. It has happened to me. We become devoted to a person that we want to help to change, and that doesn't work. You know, people need to have the insight by themselves. And, you know, if you are not a therapist, if we're not therapists, or we are too close, that is not going to work anyway.
Yeah.
True. It's important to protect our minds. There's always hope, but at the same time, because of feeling guilty, responsible, or whatever, sometimes we don't protect our minds properly. So this is the message we want to send. And I don't like toxic, the word toxic as well. But well, it's very clear, very graphic that we need to be with tonic people to have our
something
best.
Something that I would like to ask about this is how tonic you are. First, look at yourself, right? Be conscious about yourself, because it's very easy to say that person is tonic, that person is toxic. But what about starting with you? No, what about being conscious of who you are? If you really have the characteristic of a tonic or of a toxic person, and work on you first. And that's why you have these habits that you can start using and implementing them.
True.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
And we have optimism, which is, as Martin Seligman taught us, a style of explanation of reality. If we are more optimistic, and we measure that, as you've said, Ricardo, related to our self-assessment,
right?
If we are intelligent, optimistic, we see the good things, and we have gratitude for that. And at the same time, we look at opportunities for improvement. That is not, again, bad or good. It's, well, we are in dynamics, and we have to do the best we can. And that's why we have to begin with the good news, and then we have to try to change the bad ones.
Yeah. So basically, these are the 9 habits, and there's a lot of information containing each of the recommendations of the habits. But I would say that if you go through them, choose the one that you feel you need the most to start with, and focus on developing that one. We know that habits don't develop overnight. For some people, it can take longer than the famous 21 days that we used to talk about. And it depends on, where you're at in your life and how committed you are. But when you have these New Year's resolutions and you want to do a list of 20 things we give up, in less than a month, the habits are the same thing. Choose one thing, focus your mind, and go for it. Don't try to achieve many things, because the brain has this potential to focus, and attention and focus is one of the things that are failing us more than ever. So if you want to change something, if you really need to change something, lose weight, or be more agile, or jump into reading a book because it's more engaging, reading a paper book, just go for it and see what happens, and take notes. Keep a journal of your changes, and you will see that the brain is an amazing organ that can continuously surprise you with the responses or the things we do, and how it responds to us.
Yeah, great. Learn to juggle, learn an instrument, get that brain working.
Yes.
Yeah. Sylvia,
Yes.
I just want to bring you to the movie or the documentary you produced back in 2018. You directed and produced Make Me a Leader, and it won 8 international awards. How did that experience and what you learned from that documentary feed into the book?
Well, I'm an avid learner, and there's so much information available, and I think that I produced a documentary for me to continuously learn more than anything. And the other reason that made me do this is leadership is a very abstract concept for most people, unless you happen to go to a leadership training in your organization. If you ask anyone in the streets or someone that hasn't been exposed to this type of things, what leadership means, people don't think about leadership in the terms that we normally want to convey. And to do this movie was a journey, my own journey and the journey of other people, plus the 7 strategies of well-being, explained by experts in the field, like, Dr. Harar Haroon, Dr. Fred Travis, people that have studied meditation or the brains of high-performing leaders for years and years. It was an amazing thing to go and do. So anyone could watch the documentary, which we have made available for free last year online, to see if we can improve the world, if we can improve the understanding of each person, if we can educate ourselves onto things that we can all do. That's the thing. If after this conversation today, you go away and you practice one of these habits, or you take one concept with you and you share it with your partner, with your children, with your co-workers, then your brain has clicked, and then you have changed something. And then that's the way that we need to do, for me, from my humble opinion, to improve the world that we are living in.
Yeah, fabulous.
Yeah, I think that the documentary Make Me a Leader and the book are in the same line. If the people all over the world that is looking at us and listening to us think, or some of them think, leadership is not for me, we haven't been successful, because our main idea, and in About My Brain Institute, it's our claim, is leadership is for everyone, and it's very important for health, for happiness, for well-being, for to live your best in life, and it's for everyone.
Yeah, I love a comment that just popped up by Jeff, a very dear friend of mine, and he suffered a horrific brain illness, brain injury, and he had to be in hospital for a year. And the things he learned about his own brain and how he needs to deal with it now in order to maintain, a balanced lifestyle have been amazing. And, he wasn't like that before, and now he's so conscious of his brain. So don't wait for something to happen. Start learning about how our brain functions, what it needs. And there's no blanket approach. Everybody needs different things. Some people like to be more in isolation. Other people need to be with people. And that's okay. We need to respect those differences. And this is one of the things that in the workplace we need to reinforce. We can't treat everybody the same. We need to, as leaders, as managers of people, we need to listen to the individual needs and do the best we can to make these needs met. Otherwise, people are not going to be, going to give the best they have.
Right. Juan Carlos, one question for you. How do you see the world evolving with all this virus, and how do we help people incorporate all these concepts that the book has?
Well, you all know all over the world that we have a 4 times crisis in terms of the environment, the health, pandemics, economic, and social at the same time. And maybe it's the first time in history that it happens, that it 4 phases at the same time. So it's a good opportunity for talent, and talent is related to the brain again, right, and our mind, and what we love, and doing the best we can, as Silvia has already mentioned. So it's a time for wonderful opportunities. It's a new age. It's a new time when talent is more important than capital. We've lived capitalism for 500 years, and now it's a new time. We don't know exactly how much capital are in the world, because it's a technological transaction. It's not gold anymore. It's not money anymore. It's technology. But we need to develop our talent, and especially a kind of talent we call leadership. So That's why opportunities are enormous, but We have to change our mind to do this. And I think crisis, many people say this is a very good opportunity in these new times. All over the world, in Mexico, in Latam, in general, in Asia Pacific, in Europe, in Australia, New Zealand. We've seen the case of Angela Merkel, Jacinda Ardern, female leaders that are changing the possibilities of their nations. So I think it's something we have to be very hopeful if we do it properly.
Absolutely.
Great. And to draw on those opportunities, Juan Carlos, Sylvia, do you think organisations are ready to develop a brain-friendly culture, and are business schools actually educating people in brain-friendly leadership?
That's a great question. And I was working for a bank in Australia when the concept of emotional intelligence came about. And I led the first emotional intelligence program for technology people. And the head of learning at the time, she asked me, do you think that people in technology are ready for emotional intelligence training? And I said, providing they have emotions and they have a heartbeat, I think they are. So, you know, we always think about readiness. I don't think there's, you know, a better time than now to start educating people about the brain, because now we know things that we didn't know 10 years ago. And now we have a mental health crisis in our hands. You know, the amount of suicide is going up. You know, the hotlines for kids, calling hotlines. I mean, it is a chaotic scene, what we are witnessing. And without being too pessimistic, we need to change that. And the way we change that is by watching how we get up in the morning, all of us. Do we irradiate optimism and enthusiasm and hope, or do we fall into fear, into paralysis, into negativity? That will make the difference. If you start with yourself and with your family and with the people around you, that becomes like a, you know, an effect that is contagion to other people. It's not easy. Some days, to be honest, I don't get up 100%, and then, but I have the capacity to look at myself and say, what's going on? What's happening? How can I change this? And it's in my hands. It's within my hands to change it or not. And if you can give a word of hope and wisdom to the people in your life, you are making a difference. Otherwise, you become a victim of the circumstances.
Yeah, great.
I can't agree more. And well, for organizations, Gary, you know, in Davos, in Switzerland, before the pandemics, Davos celebrated the 50 years of World Economic Forum. And in the last 50 years, the death rate of companies, of organizations, has been multiplied by 5. It was 70 years, half a century ago. And before the pandemic, it was 14 years old, 14 years, the life expectancy of the company. And now it's less than 12. So it's Darwinian, it's selection. We have to do these things in this chaotic situation, because if we don't do anything different, we will not survive as an organization.
That's great. And there's our return on investment. I'd just like to say thank you. We're going to hand back to Relmi, but thank you, Sylvia. Thank you, Juan Carlos. Thank you, Ricardo. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's been an amazing experience for all of us. Relmi, over to you.
Wow, what a wonderful session. Thank you to the amazing panelists for all of your wisdom, for your insights. That was a great discussion. And also to everyone that contributed on our social platforms. Thank you for asking questions, making comments. We really appreciate it and connecting with us today. I'm sure everyone has been able to take away some nuggets of wisdom so that you can apply this back to your daily lives. I know that I have, and having been a part of About My Brain for the last 12 years, I have learned a lot about my brain, about myself, about my body, about my own leadership, and all of this information is just wonderful. Now, like as I said at the beginning of the session, the book will be available for purchase on the Amazon store soon. You can register your interest by simply going to our website, BFL, and as soon as it goes online, we will send you an email notification so that you can purchase your copy. We're also making the book available as a PDF ebook download. So for all of the people that are subscribed to our iPhone You're a Leader platform, you can actually log in there when the book comes out, and you'll be able to download the ebook version. For those who don't know what the iPhone You're a Leader platform is about, this is a fully resourced leadership development e-learning space that allows you to quantify and develop the abilities of a brain-friendly leader. So if you're someone who wants to develop personal leadership skills, we invite you to explore this learning platform. Now, if you're a coach, a consultant, or a leadership professional, you can take a look at our online certification, which is accredited by ICF and CPD. Now, finally,